Welcome to JOC Huddle number 28, Cynthia. We need like confetti cannons, right?
Phew.
Two more, we're going to be at 30, so that's pretty exciting. So today's topic is JOC Contractor Code of Work and Gordian Cloud Tips. So thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. Of course, this is going to be recorded, put up on YouTube and SumTotal. So you don't have to take notes. You can actually come back and see it later, and I will send the slide deck out later. So let's take a look at our agenda. So we're going to have some announcements today. Then Cynthia and I will get into the JOC Contractor Code of Work. Cynthia and Daniel, maybe you'll be helping out with the Gordian Cloud tips. We'll have an open discussion where you can kind of share your experience, strength, and hope with JOC as it is. And then we'll talk about upcoming trainings that the Chancellor's Office is offering. So let's get it started. So we've got, almost 32 contracts up on CSYOU right now. And we'll be adding 4 new regional roofing contracts probably within the next week. Pretty exciting. We opened up bids for those, so we'll have some new roofing contracts available on the regional contract list. Carly, do you want to take over with the pre-qualification, that new process that's coming on Planet Bids?
Definitely. We have a new process coming for JOC pre-qualification. What this means for the campuses is that you still will email over the notice to contractors to that email, cocm.prequal@calstate.edu, not Cal State.
You know where she's from.
Yeah, it just rolls off the tongue. And the contractor will still receive an approval letter from us, specific to that JOC bid, and then they forward that to you, so you know when to release those bid documents to those approved contractors. But the difference is that there's no separate supplemental form, that PDF form that you also previously had been sending over to that cocm.prequal@calstate. Instead, they will be applying for that JOC pre-qualification online in Planet Bids, just like they do for their system-wide. So it's going to make the process a lot smoother and simpler, especially for the campuses and the contractors. But just know you'll still will get a specific approval letter for that JOC bid. The difference is, they're just applying now on the Planet Bids portal. So we tested it with that regional roofing that Jeremy just talked about, and hammered out a little bit more of the kinks. So if there's a campus that has a JOC coming up, we would love to pilot again with thanks, Cheryl. That's that comment. We'd love to pilot this process with a campus before we go totally live with everyone. So for now, still has a supplemental form, but we're getting really close to making it system-wide, just a mandatory process across the board.
Carly, thanks so much for that, and great work working with Planet Bids to get that JOC pre-qualification process coming. It's been a long time in coming, but we really appreciate it, and looking forward to kind of speed the plow at getting contractors pre-qualified for JOC. JOC contractor evaluations. So Gordian did me a solid, like a year ago, Cynthia, or so, and they set up the JOC contractor evaluation. So when you're in the Gordian Cloud, it's just a tab all the way at the end. Please, when you're done with your project, it might take 2 to 3 minutes to complete this, but please get in there when you complete your projects, fill it out, submit it. I look at these on a monthly basis. We do use them for pre-qualification. We do use them to really talk about, I'll be positive about how well the contractors are doing. Hopefully it's all good news, but the idea is just to really round out and find out what our JOC contractors succeed at and what maybe they're a little bit challenged at. So please take the time when you're done with your JOC project. Please complete this. It helps Gordian. It helps us really kind of get a finger on who we need working on our JOC projects.
If I can add real quick, on a campus-wide level, there are management reports that we can issue out to you based on these reports. So think of this as your Yelp review to
Yeah.
see the overall health of the contractor or the overall performance of a contractor, we can give you a management report that shows you like their overall ranking.
Awesome. And then there was a JOC program analysis, right, Cynthia?
And then there was a program analysis.
So don't think of it as an audit because nobody likes to hear the word audit, but on a monthly basis, Cynthia and I are looking at your job orders, right? We're going to pick a campus in the north and a campus in the south every month, and we're going to take a look at it. And here are some items that we're going to be looking at, and we're going to be meeting with you, talking about successes and maybe challenges that you had on that project. And it's not to chastise, nobody's going to be in trouble, but it's more of a learning experience and seeing where the contractors are successful and maybe where they're having their challenges as well. So be prepared. Cynthia and I will have the JOC program analysis coming soon to a campus near you. And Cynthia, you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So as a result of that, we will be selecting a campus based on the grading rubric. Whoever the campus comes out with the highest ranking will be put up for the JOC Star Award.
JOC Star Award. That was me. I came up with that. Good. Yes. Everybody thumbs up. Can I get a thumbs up? Is that good?
Good job, Jeremy. Good job.
Thank you.
So it's basically just to highlight the campuses who are doing exceptionally well and how they run their JOC program, what they do great, and how to showcase it system-wide for other campuses to be able to learn and grow from.
Cool. So yeah. Last but not least, as you guys know, I was the Southern California president of the Center of JOC Excellence. This is a tool that's completely available for any of you guys to use. And if you have any questions about it, you can ask me, because now I am on the national board, and I'm actually a CJP certified something or another. I teach classes now about JOC, which is a double-edged sword. But please reach out to me if you'd like to be more involved in the Center of JOC Excellence, or if you have any questions about the CJP credential. So without further ado, let's start talking about our contractors and what they have to do are required to do for the general conditions. Cynthia, you want to get us started?
Sure. So just so that you guys know, the way that these are formatted out on these slides for you guys to have later on, you're going to see this section with the notes from that specific section from the general conditions for you guys to come back and reference should you ever need to use this. So for example, right here, we're talking about audit provisions. This is from section 3 of the main section 4, conduct of work in the general conditions. The paragraph below it is directly from the general conditions. So in this specific case, we're speaking to how all contract parties are actually subject to an audit or an examination by an audit at any given point during the construction period and for a period of 3 years after the final payment of the contract, not after the project is completed, after the final payment of a contract. So the key takeaway here is that both campuses and contractors may be subject to a program audit at any time in the future. That was the major premise for us wanting to do these internal program analysis of the campuses, is to better prepare you for that, so that should the day ever come, you guys have already gone through it internally and can successfully turn over any paperwork to whoever the external auditor may be.
Correct. And just to piggyback on that, Cynthia, the tool that Gordian provides, actually Gordian Cloud's a lot cleaner. All the tools and all those tabs, they're there for a reason. The dates are there for a reason. And if you're keeping up with all the tabs and completing all the dates and literally completing all the fields, you're going to be in good shape. Because that's the lion's share of their audit. Our internal thing is super easy, and it's to prepare you when you do get audited, because it will happen.
Secondary to that, again, is a reminder of the program analysis. These are the things that we will be looking out for, again, in preparation of should that day ever come. You guys have all of these things in compliance already. So things that we're looking at are does your contractor have a low adjustment factor? Because that does impact the overall being of the program.
Right.
Do we notice an excessive use of non-pre-priced line item? Is there a scope of work? We have seen projects that have no scope of work. So making sure that that's there and it's detailed, right? What is your training regimen like, both with your contractors and with your Gordian account manager? This should be happening quarterly, monthly, annually. You guys should have a regular rhythm that you guys are getting updates because the system is evolving as always. Is there any projects that were improperly passed through the JOC program? Could they have been better suited for another tool in your tool belt? Do you have all the proper documentation through your job order processes? So did you make sure to include that joint scope meeting invitation? Do you have the formal request for proposal? What about your subcontractor listing report? Is that also listed in there? And the big one, do you have an NTP, right? We're also looking at milestone tracking on there to make sure that you guys are using all of the appropriate milestones, checking for the proposals so that we can always tell when there's been a pricing negotiation versus a proposal actual review. Typically, it's because it's a one and done scenario where we see a proposal came in and it was approved. So there wasn't probably a proposal review process that happened. And also, do you guys have written procedures of your workflow? Anytime we have seen audits in the past, is they ask for these kinds of documentation.
Right.
What are your internal processes, and do you have it documented? And that's where Gordian can jump in and help you guys out as well, is to document those internal processes for yourself. And last but not least, are you guys using your contractor evaluations? If you haven't, please start using those because they are impactful, as you guys heard, to the pre-quals. Anything I missed, Jeremy?
No, you nailed it. Thanks so much, Cynthia. Let's move on to the next slide. So contractors' responsibility for the work. So a lot of times, and nobody has to raise hands, but have you guys ever heard when a contractor's like, oh, that was my sub. My sub did that. Nah, that's on my sub. It was my sub that did that. I've heard that more times, and it's so frustrating because the contractor is responsible for all the work performed on the contract, even if they didn't do it themselves. So your key takeaway on this is the contractor will always be responsible party, not the sub, right? That's why we won't release retention until we found out all the subs are paid, right? Don't forget that. You can't release retention until you found out all the subs have been paid. Cynthia?
That's correct. The only key takeaway here is, again, the verbiage listed up above. Always feel free to reference that. That is directly from the general conditions. Should you ever be having these types of conversations with your contractor, you can just copy and paste this in whatever email you're shooting out.
By the way, nice work on the little animation here on the right. That's yeah, pretty good. It looks like one of our JOC contractors.
Oh, this one's a fun one.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Sorry, didn't mean to steal your thunder there.
Oh,
but
no.
I'm so
No, it's all good.
Okay, the contractor's responsibility for work. The contractor is actually required to report construction activities on a daily basis, you guys.
Daily basis, yeah.
The general conditions actually go so far as to tell you by when they're due, which is fantastic. But the big gist of this is they are required to submit a daily report of all construction activities occurring each single day. They're also required to provide you a list of all the subcontractors that were on the site, the number of workers that are on the site every day, and a brief description of the work that was performed by the subs. These are due at the end of each day. And actually, there's another, I don't know if it's in the next slide or not, but it'll also tell you what happens if they do not meet that requirement. But the gist of this, the key takeaway here is you should be getting daily reports on all of your JOC project sites. JOC projects are projects.
And that's a great point you bring up right there, Cynthia, is that, and I've heard this a lot of times, well, let's just JOC it just to get it done. Well, great. You can use JOC. Like I said, we've got, 31, 32 contracts right now. And we did $86 million worth of JOC work last year, which is a lot. But a JOC project is still a project. It still needs to have daily reports, submittals, RFIs, correspondence, meeting minutes. Like, it's still a project. It may be a small project, but it still needs all of those items. But as far as daily reports go, I had a JOC contractor that would just email me at the end of every day, handful of pictures. Hey, Jeremy, we were here. This is what happened. These are the hours we worked. And that was enough for me. I saved the emails as PDFs, and those were my daily reports. I mean, it can be an official daily report on their letterhead, but if it's an email from them that summarizes what happened that day and who was there, I'm okay with that too. So safety. So
go ahead.
You go, Cynthia.
I just wanted to note on here, this is one that does also speak to when those daily reports are to be submitted over to you. So they're actually required no later than 9 a.m. for the previous day. Any failure to submit those daily activity reports, along with the requisite subcontractor reports and the employee sign-in sheet, may be grounds for non-performance, and they are subject to penalties that may include but not limited to withholding of payment. So this is what we were mentioning in the previous slide, to make sure that you are getting those, because it is a part of their contract. Again, this is directly from the general conditions. But go ahead, Jeremy.
So legally, like if something, and I knock on wood, I hope nothing bad happens on your projects at all. But if something does happen, all of this needs to be in place. I mean, it turns into like we want to have this paperwork should something occur, so we have the backup to keep the campus protected. So please make sure that you're getting those from your contractor. I was waiting for you to go first. I was waiting for you. Go ahead.
Okay, so safety in the workplace. Always making sure that it is your contractor's responsibility to make sure that there is a safe working site. They are required to observe all of your local, state, and federal workplace safety guidelines. So even if you as a campus are bringing something up to the contractor that may be an unsafe work environment, and especially in those kinds of circumstances, it is a contractor's responsibility, not your responsibility, to continuously follow up with them. It is their responsibility to make sure that they're adhering to those safety guidelines that you set forth for them.
So those guidelines could be campus specific, Cal OSHA specific. It's imperative that a safe work site is there, not only for the contractor, but for staff and faculty and students walking by. And what if something wasn't safe and something happened? Again, that's why it's important to have everything documented.
Yep. Ooh, this is a fun one.
It is.
So as a reminder, it is the contractor's responsibility to make sure that they have all of the appropriate permits in place. Ultimately, in the general conditions, it does state that it is their responsibility to make sure that they are securing all of the appropriate permits and licensing. So not just their own general contract licensing, not just their own internal things, but on every project, if there are permits that are required, it is their responsibility to make sure that those are on hand before construction begins. Any payments that they need to make on those permits are reimbursable to them.
Correct.
It's just a direct reimbursement. It's not the regular adjustment factor. It's just a direct reimbursement to the contractor, but it is their responsibility to make sure that they are complying with all state, local, and federal requirements as far as permitting.
So that goes for the campuses too. If you think your project needs a permit, it probably does. Make sure you're checking in with your campus building official and making sure that a permit is needed and what those requirements are, because there's nothing worse than a project starting and the project manager's looking at the contractor and the contractor's looking at the project manager being like, did you get the permits? There's nothing worse than that. So, and unfortunately, we've had a couple of campuses not permit projects, and the projects have just gone wild. Like they've really, like it's gotten really hairy. So please keep that in mind. So Cynthia, Daniel, I'm going to turn this over to you guys for the Gordian Cloud Proposal Review Assistant.
Sure thing. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All All right, guys. So what I'm going to show you today is a job order from the Chancellor's Office Regional JOC program. And let me know once you guys can see my screen, okay?
Uh-oh, is this one of mine? Oh, no. I thought it was one of mine. I'm just kidding.
Did I put you on the spot here? All right. So all I did was grab a proposal that I saw was open. It's still in review. But I wanted to show you guys a couple of reminders and tips and tricks that are available to you. Everybody can see my screen okay, though? Yes? Okay, awesome. Thank you for the nods. This one is for a $400,000 proposal. So just at a quick glance here, if you guys are dealing with a bigger proposal, such as what we are here in this specific one, as a reminder, you guys always have a summary view by clicking on more, and you guys can see where the breakout of those costs truly lie. So as I can see here, a majority of this lies in exterior improvements. Had this $300,000 been in the general requirements, that would have been an immediate red flag, right? Because the general requirements are typically the broken out costs. So that would probably mean that there's some double dipping that might be happening. So just as a reminder, there is a summary view that's available for you before you dive into the specific line items, just to tell you where you probably want to spend a majority of your time. Right below your summary is also the compare versions. This is a fantastic tool for as you guys start getting into the weeds of versions 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, so on and so forth. Ideally, you shouldn't get past version 1.4, but we know that may not always be the case, right? Especially when you're dealing with bigger proposals. So you have this tool here that's available to you to be able to compare versions. What this will do is it'll ask you what proposal do you want to look at and which one do you want to compare it to. If I am just looking to see what the contractor did after I submit my notes over to them, you probably want to compare the previous version. What this will do is it'll show you what line items were added, what line items were deleted, and which ones were modified. So what that means is maybe they added a couple of units to the cost. It's the same line item, but now they've added a couple of extra units on there. Or maybe they just deleted a couple of units on there, even though you asked them to delete out the entire line item. This will quickly tell you where exactly those modifications happened, rather than you having to comb through each of the line items in the proposal. However, if you guys are just in the proposal, let's just say you're looking at it here, always make sure you have this little button here marked off to highlight the changes. Because again, as you guys are going through the back and forth, what this will do is it'll also showcase the boxes. It'll give you like a little yellow highlight around your line item to say, this line item was modified in this specific section. So in this one, the quantity was modified. In this one, the description was modified. Okay, so always keep an eye out for those. There's also a filter over here if you guys haven't seen it. So if you guys look to the right of this, there's a filter where you can only look at the pending items. So if you've already accepted some of the line items, maybe you don't want to keep looking at those because those are done, locked out, right? We only want to look at the pending ones. So by selecting on that, it's going to weed out all of those. So rather than you having to scroll through your proposal, you can just look at what's remaining to look at. And lastly, the big fun one that we've added now is the proposal review tips. So if you guys look up here, there is this little box with a little check mark, and you also see those check marks over here. That's your assistant now. What this does is it tells you, based on what we know in the proposal, it's an AI tool that will tell you which line items you should be looking at and why you should be looking at them. Let me go ahead and refresh my screen here to get those to load. Of course, it logged me out. Hang tight.
While Cynthia's logging in, if you guys want to start prepping your questions, you don't need to tap them you don't need to enter them in the chat. We can actually just start discussing them as soon as we're done with this module that she's in.
Alrighty. There we go. Apologies about that. It idled out.
All good.
Okay, awesome. So when you guys when you click on that view additional tips, it's going to tell you this first line item here is for structural bar tees. Why is it telling you to look at that? The scope may mention division. So based on the part of the scope, pot structural, this proposal may be missing a line like section 5. Do any of the line items below in section 5, structural bar teeth, help complete the proposal work? So it'll also tell you where to view those options in the CTC. It'll pop it out and it'll show you where to look up those line items. Also, again, asphaltic concrete testing based on the scope, concrete, paving, asphalt, concrete. So this is going to look at your scope of work that you have, and it's going to tell you what line items may be suited for the specific proposal. Okay. It'll tell you what line items to add. It'll also tell you what line items to delete. If there's line items that need to be deleted out, it'll also pop up Y under your Y as a double dip to say this line item is already captured in this other line item. And so if you look, and you can also give it feedback to say, no, this isn't relevant to what I'm looking at, or yes, this is exactly correct. This is true. Okay. The caveat here is to always look out for these. It'll also pop up here as an option 1. If there's only one tip to review there. If there's 2 tips within that same section, it'll tell you there's 2 different tips in here based on what the assistant is telling you that you should look at. Look at those 2 different things. And those will always populate on here for you. This is an optional tool that you guys can use. However, it is something that we're further developing out as a part of the next phase of Gordian Cloud to be more AI based. So the more information, the more feedback that you give it, whether thumbs up or thumbs down, will help the system continue to develop out. But just know that these are some available tools for you to help you through your proposal review process. Any questions on proposal review?
Cynthia, is this being offered to the contractors too? It seems like it'd be a good tool for them to say, hey, you have this scope, you're missing this line item.
Yeah, so on their side, once they submit their proposal, they will get the same view additional tips once it's submitted over to the campus.
Cool.
Great question.
Cynthia, that's a great tool, but are you a little bit nervous that AI is going to take over your job? That's my big question.
No, not at all. Did you guys with me?
What's that? No,
AI is not going to give you the funny banter that I provide for you guys on these JOC huddles, okay, guys?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we could find some AI to take care of that too, Cynthia.
Go for it. I can retire early.
Cynthia, thank you so much for that. That's a great tool. And if you guys have any questions about that, please reach out to Cynthia or anybody on her team, and they can show you more in detail on your job orders. So let's open it up to questions and answers. You can type in the chat, or you can just unmute yourself and ask away. Francisco's asking, will the recording of today's meeting be provided to participants for future reference? That's a great question, which I'll get to. I'll give you the answer to that in a second. But yes, very much so. We record all these and they're up on SumTotal and our YouTube and then SumTotal. And I'll show you how to get there in a second. If a permit is required and an engineer stamp is part of the process, where can that discussion take place in terms of responsibility and cost? So, Fausto, do you want to unmute? Do you mean if you have the contractor use an engineer?
No, sometimes we'll have the fire marshal come in and say, oh, these sprinklers need to be installed, but to install them, you need an engineer stamp. And the contractor's willing to do that, but that's kind of after the fact. We were expecting a renovation, but then the fire marshal will say, this needs to be brought up to code, but you can't just install sprinklers. You have to actually have an engineer stamp the drawing.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Ideally, if that happens, that can both happen through your JOC contractor or external of your JOC contractor. If you trust your contractor enough to provide you these drawings, that's at your discretion. it's still going to be considered a part of their direct permit costs, where they would just get a reimbursement for them. But it's completely at your discretion.
Okay.
So that's a double-edged sword there for sure. So I don't like having JOC contractors design my projects unless it's like an incidental. Like for example, we were doing display screens at the chancellor's office, and I literally needed some calculations for some bracing in the walls and how that would attach. The JOC contractor was able to provide a stamped drawing, like a stamped sketch. But when it comes to fire protection, Kevin, it looks like you unmuted. You're gonna chip in on this one too. I'd probably go outside. Kevin?
Yeah, so since fire sprinkler is almost always deferred approval, and almost has to be design build, then the contractor is going to be the sprinkler contractor is going to be providing that. But you could give the sprinkler contractor a professional service agreement outside of the JOC contract for the design scope. So even if the direct costs is being subcontracted under the GC, you could give just a design agreement to the contractor to design the sprinklers, and that way you wouldn't be paying the markup on it. And again, JOC shouldn't be design build anyways. So yeah, if we're managing the design directly, we're responsible for it. But it's design bid build world, so we're responsible for it anyways. So that would be the other option, to potentially save money and have more control over the schedule and the design.
Right.
To manage it through a service agreement directly with the contractor doing that design.
And I would for sure reach out to your Office of Fire Safety representative that's in the chancellor's office. There's a matrix out there. Also, I don't know. It's either Mark on your campus or it's Randy. I'd reach out to them before proceeding with any of that work, because they're really going to be able to outline what needs to be done.
Because for JOC, we really should have a permit before we provide round 1C. And to be able to do that, we need to be able to complete the design, get the design permitted, and then issue the NCP for the work.
Yeah. But that fire sprinkler work, any work on the fire sprinkler system is required to have a permit. So Sabrina, has any other campus used smart sheets to have contractors submit their dailies, RFIs, and submittals? We were looking into that possibility on our campus, but wondered if it has been done. Not to my knowledge. The chancellor's office is looking into how to do that. But what have you heard about this, Sabrina?
It just came to our desk that our management would like us to start working towards this. We use it already, I guess, on our major cap projects, which Carlos and I obviously don't work on, but we've seen it and it looks cool, but we're trying to figure out exactly how to integrate it into our JOC program so that it's not redundant and is helpful for us.
That sounds really neat. So if you guys develop something, I'd love to see it, or maybe we could actually even bring it into the JOC Huddle, because I would love to see that. A lot of contractors that I use, I'm using VinCore a lot right now, and VinCore set me up on Procore, which I think everybody on the line probably knows how Procore works, because it's fairly simple, but that's a great tool as well. So any more questions? I'm going to pop this link into the chat right now. So we actually have a CPDC info center that I'd love for you guys to check out. Just click on the link and request access. This is going to be the repository for all construction links that we can think of, as well as training opportunities. And we eventually, I think Carly and I want to put on your construction photos, right? Completed construction or in construction photos to kind of highlight some of the projects that we're doing across the campuses. So click on that link and request access, and we will let you in. Any other questions for today? Great. Here's a look at upcoming training session. We only have one coming up. That's next Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. It's going to be on policy and building code costs, thresholds, and triggers. We'll have updates from Office of Fire Safety, Buy Clean California, and websites and forums. Don't forget all of these JOC training huddles, as well as all of the construction management unit our training sessions are on CSU Learn Sum Total. I think everybody knows where that is, because if you work here, you've always had to go through that training session. But if you dig in deep, you can actually find out where all of our training videos are. And if you've got any questions, just let us know and we'll help you find them. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and enjoy your weekend.